Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.
Here locally in the community. Make sure y'all go check out New Cat Body by Jeremy Campbell.
Good morning and welcome to Lions Talk with Smoke and Jeremy B. We cannot talk about that. Do not mention his name. It'll get us flagged to his PR department and then we got to pay for it. So please don't ask those questions right now. It'll happen within the next 2 days. It had to be rescheduled because of a bad connection. So leave it at that. Please don't put that in comments anymore because I can't afford the PR price. But anyways, let's go back to what we are supposed to be talking about. The Lions. What are your way too early rankings you want to see for this offense and for this defense? Good afternoon, Ricky Sakat. Thank you for joining me. Yeah, I had to delete the videos everywhere. I had to. No. It's not public news. He's doing it out of the goodness of his own heart to help a new podcaster because of a mutual friendship. And I don't want to put those names out there. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. It was bad enough. I almost lost the whole thing on Saturday. Good morning, Matt Henry. How are you today? It is a great day to be here. But what is your way too early offense and defensive rankings that you expect for the Lions? Personally, anything less than top 15 with the improvements we made on this roster at defense, I'm disappointed. I think we should probably be in the top 10. They do not practice today, they practice tomorrow. But I did see something that I'm going to talk about here in a second as an extra point that was made because I saw a couple memes and I'm a little confused by some rankings that just were released about the top 32 safeties, and I'm going to talk about it because I just don't see how the fourth best prospect on that list has almost the exact same stats as one of the safeties on our team, and they left him off the top 32 safeties. And it's mind-boggling to me. But they practice tomorrow. They only lose 1 day. So instead of a 10-day mandatory minicamp, it becomes 9. They only had 3 so that they get to practice the rest of this week, which is not that big a deal if you really think about it. I mean, they had 4, so they have 6 left, so they'll practice Tuesday on through probably to Sunday and be done with it. And then you got nothing until training camp. So, like I said, I have them. I have it top 5 on to top 10 on offense and top 15 on defense at minimum. What do you guys think? And we picked up another subscriber this morning. When is training camp? It is starts the week of July 16th, mid-July. With the new OTAs, they're going to start training camp in June, so they're going to give them an extra 2 weeks of training camp if they go to the 18 game schedule with the 2 preseason games, but I don't like that either. I think that's going to lead to people being less prepared for the season physically, and then instead of it being like the 1 or 2 game extra preseason games that actually start the week, it's going to feel like you got 6 weeks of bad football then because there's less practice time. It's a coffee kind of day. I got to go to the store after the show. So we all know that the Cam Sutton contract actually did get voided. We had the extra 12 million put in, but it's actually only an extra 10 because of the dead cap hit. The unadjusted cap space is 40.3. Yes, sir, Orlando. Ricky's on the he's came to come to the dark side, Ricky. But yeah, but said interview, it will happen within the next 2 days, and you'll know it'll be a special 2-hour episode. That's all I got to say. So we got that extra, so let's say 10.3 million. So we're sitting at about 38.6 adjusted cap. Right. Preseason games have came about guys on the bubble making the team. But they're going to extend actually training camp almost a month, but it's going to end a little sooner. So like the week before preseason. So I think they're going to start doing a little bit of cuts right there before preseason even played because it's only 2 games to cut from 90 to 53. 54 if you count the extra quarterback that doesn't count towards the roster spot. So there's technically it's a 54 man roster because you can carry 3 quarterbacks. So what do you guys think about that? Uh, do you actually want us to spend the money? Because at first, we all said maybe Xavier Howard, he wanted to come play for a team cheap, but he's got sexual allegations and a lawsuit on him now. Yeah, Facebook does tend to lag behind better. Do we re-sign Decker with that loop? I think the idea is Decker is retiring after the season, especially if we meet the goals that the team has put before them. I think he'll retire. I mean, he just had to have off-season surgery to get in shape to come to camp. He's missed an average of 3 games a year or more in his career. He's only had 2 healthy seasons where he's played the entire season in his career. But yet he's always ranked in the top 20 as a tackle because he's that damn good that even when he's out, he makes a difference. Ragnow has 2 seasons left, and he has no thoughts of retiring. He came back and he said that was just a reaction to a long season, and he's not retiring. He's playing out his contract. Well, I think the deal would be to fifth year option both Hutchinson and JMO if JMO explodes and has a good decent year. Anything over 700 yards and 7 touchdowns. Anything over that, I have the feeling they will exercise the fifth year option on JMO, which means technically they have another season to wait. They don't have to extend them right then. I still say you roll that money over, and that way, because right now we only have 36 million in cap space next year. 10 to 18 is going to be rookie. Right. Ragnow is the best. No, it's not cheaper to do it now. It's way cheaper to exercise the fifth year option, keep it on a rookie cap. Maybe give him a little bonus like they did with Amon-Ra St. Brown this year. But it's way cheaper to do it that way. You extend him a year out, a year before the end of the contract, not the year of. So if you give him the fifth year option, you do it then. If you don't give him the fifth year option, let's say he doesn't have that great a year, then you can sign him to a cheaper prove it deal as a wide receiver too, which is going to be in the 15 to 20 million dollar range anyways for the wide receiver two money. It was and it wasn't. I if we'd have waited another year and he got another all pro, that price tag would have been higher. But at the same time, what if down the road he gets mad because he feels like he's not being compensated enough? You don't, because every year somebody else is going to get paid more. That's how the market works until they reset the market. And I think how they're going to reset it is almost like an NIL type of deal with sponsorships paying part of guys' salaries, which would be smart if owners did that because the rule went on the books in 2022. They could start doing that now. I think that would be way smarter. And I'm not saying give somebody a share of the team. I'm saying like, okay, because you're on our team and we own this company, we're going to give you X amount of dollars in sponsorship to be a spokesperson for our company, and the rest will be your salary. So you could cut down that way. Right. Next year, CD and Chase both have deals coming. CD's sitting out waiting for it right now because they already exercised everything, and he's up for contract. So he's sitting out. Micah Parsons said he's sitting out because he gets better workouts with his personal trainer than he does with the team. That's not a good look to have a player say that he gets a better workout with his personal trainer for his position than he does with the team. What does that tell you about the team coaching? Right, absolutely, Matt Henry, and I've said that. If he doesn't get X amount of yards, X amount of touchdowns, Higgins is sitting and he's ruining himself. You could say that the fines are only 101,000, but in that franchise tag, there's 150,000 because it's just an extension of the rookie contract. So whatever the rookie contract is when you franchise tag him, whatever the workout bonus is, he's losing that too. So that's $250,000, and that don't sound like a lot. But when you're bitching because you're making 25 million already on a franchise tag, just because you don't have a long-term deal, um, he's going to Le'Veon Bell himself if he don't play this year, which will actually hurt his money because right now on 28 teams, T. Higgins would be a 2 at best, correct? And on 6 teams, maybe a low end 1, high 2. Does anybody disagree with that statement? It was a deep receiver draft this year. Next year's you don't know yet. Nobody's played. So it was actually deeper at wide receiver than it was at quarterback. Right. He wants top 5 money, but I don't think Higgins will get it. I know Chase will probably get it. CD Lamb will get that, but I don't see T Higgins getting that kind of money. At best, I see him getting like just over Christian Kirk money. Like I said, in that 20 to 25 million dollar range is what he belongs in. Because if you give Higgins that money at the Bengals, let's say they do give him that 28 to 30 million dollars, then you can't afford to sign Chase next year. Who would you rather have, Jamar Chase or T Higgins? Wilson has 3 years left on his contract. He's only been in the league 2 years. They don't even have to worry about that. That's the same with how would Higgins perform without Burrow? We saw it last year. Burrow got hurt in week 5. He did 11 weeks with another quarterback. Everybody forgets that Burrow was out most of the season last year. As a matter of fact, since the Super Bowl, has he played a complete season? I think the year after he did, and after that, it's kind of been, and that wasn't even his rookie year. That was his second year. Say what you want. I mean, I'm not trying to dog Joe Burrow, but he's kind of fragile. But I got to go adjust something. We added a subscriber just before the show. We are back at 447 subscribers. Thank you guys for making that happen. Cincinnati's O line trash. Hell, he'll keep getting hurt. Probably. But now that we talked about the money, and I didn't see anybody put anybody up there that they wanted. I think the only guy I might consider, and because he's young and he'd be good, he had a bad year with the Giants, but he had 3 great years with the Giants. Adoree Jackson. I think that's the only one out of the free agent list that I would even consider adding to this roster. And then that's a maybe because I kind of want to just roll the money over with 36 million. If you're able to roll over another 34 million, because 4 million for, let's say, injury signings and stuff like that. If you're able to roll over 34 million, don't 70 million in cap space sound better next year? Plus whatever it goes up, because that's not figured in. I'm not trading for either one of those guys because they want top 5 money. Why would you trade for somebody? Brad Holmes has told us he's happy with the wide receiver room. Why does everybody always go back to wide receiver? Oh, it's only fans that do that. Burrow is fragile, but he did get paid, and so will Chase. Right. That's exactly my point. I don't get why fans want to change what Brad Holmes says he's happy with. I think the only thing we need to add is maybe defense, but I really don't think it's D line. If it's an extra corner, an extra good corner, if necessary. Adoree Jackson for 3 years played quarterback 1 or 2, depending on which year it was. Last year he kind of fell apart, and 2 rookies surpassed him on the roster. That's why they let him go, and I think it had to do with that loss in the playoffs because they got humiliated in that second game. Yeah, but you see, they're not cheap 1-year rentals. These guys want deals, is why they want out. And Debo's not cheap. Debo's a $24 million player. You want him? That's not cheap. He's in the top 10 of wide receivers already because they paid him last year. Right. Obviously, Detroit realized they need defensive help and why they drafted that way. It is absolutely correct, Matt Henry. I mean, we took way more defense than offense. Two corners, a DN. We got a guy that is listed at running back, but was listed at safety when we drafted him. We spent 50% of the draft on defense, basically. We only used 6 picks. We traded around. We moved around the board, and I love it. I love the fact we did it. And one thing I got right, I thought we were picking at 72. No lie, I thought we were taking that pick and gonna use it on somebody, but we moved up to get Arnold. What luxury possibilities do I see? Well, now if they're today would be the day. If the Lions are gonna do a luxury, it's Jake Bates. That's the luxury. But we all seen if we have him, he's basically Badgley outdoors, but he's got a bigger leg. He missed 5 5 field goals, and all of them were outside. Maybe 6 if you count the playoff game, but 5 in the regular season. I think Jake Bates would be the only one that we do as a luxury, or a Dory Jackson. And the only reason why I say a Dory Jackson is because there's nothing out there that says he wants to be paid, and we could possibly do that 1 year, give him a 5 to $8 million salary for a year because that's better than riding the pine at home. I don't want any of those wide receivers that are due for huge extensions. Exactly. I mean, we already got ours. And Matt, you got one coming up. Isn't next year DJ Morris? So you guys probably are already starting to talk to him because I would start talking to him right now and get that deal done before it gets way exorbitant. Because if he plays like he did last year with Justin Fields, he'll be due a big paycheck. But at the same time, the level of talent around him got better. I don't think he'll have as many targets. I tried explaining that to somebody else, when your team gets better around, use them like Philly used Swift. They signed Swift. They're all due a big contract. They're sitting out because they want money. I'm not trading for somebody that wants to be paid because they'll want to be paid by you. No, we don't get the comp pick because we didn't develop him. That's where you're missing out, Orlando. San Francisco gets that comp pick, not us. We didn't develop him. The comp picks are for people you drafted and developed, not who you traded for. That's wrong. Philly doesn't get the comp pick for Swift. We will. You have to be on a roster for 3 years to get a comp pick. That's part of the compensatory pick things. You have to be on a roster for 3 years and preferably drafted there. If anything, nobody gets a pick. Either we get the pick or nobody does because he wasn't on their roster for 3 years. If they'd have re-signed him to a 2-year deal, then yes, they'd have got a comp pick. But I thought you had to be drafted by the team, and the only way you get comp picks is if you're on the roster for 3 years. It's a 3-year thing because you're supposed to develop the player. So 1 year prove it deals and trading for a 1-year deal, you don't get the comp pick. I think nobody gets a comp pick at that point. Prove it deals are exactly that. They're a prove it deal. It's a 1-year rental. And like I said, if you're going to do that with somebody, I'd rather sign somebody out of free agency than waste draft capital. So let's Hey, Will, how you doing, sir? So let's talk about something that happened over the weekend. The top 32 safeties. Yeah, exactly, Paul Jones. I think Dak walks unless he wins a playoff game. Matt Henry. I think CD's the lot. Parsons. I think they're going to make that decision when they see what happens with the season. So the top 32 safeties list came out, and let's talk about who's at number 4. Kyle Hamilton. 82 tackles, 4 interceptions, 13 passes defended. All good with that. Great numbers. The Honey Badger was listed at 5. 74 tackles, 2 interceptions, 9 passes defended. Javon Holland, 79 tackles, 3 interceptions, 5 passes defended. He's at 6. Out of those 3, guess who has on the Lions roster almost the exact same stats as? He has the exact same stats as Kyle Hamilton. 84 tackles, 4 interceptions, and 11 passes defended. So how the hell is Kirby Joseph not on the top 32 safeties list if those guys are 4, 5, and 6? That's my question. I don't understand that PFF thing. 84 tackles, 4 interceptions, 11 passes defended. So he had 2 less pass defended, more tackles than the Honey Badger. He had almost 10 more tackles than the Honey Badger and 5 more tackles than Javon Holland, more interceptions than both of them, and more passes defended. The only guy with anything more is Kyle Hamilton with 2 more passes defended. How the hell is Kirby Joseph left off the top 32 safeties list? And everybody said they wanted us to draft Kyle Hamilton instead of JMO. We have Kyle Hamilton on the team by the statistics. Dwayne Keene, good afternoon to all. Let's go. Detroit Lions, one pride. I mean, seriously, it confounds me. It blew my mind when I read that over the weekend. And I forgot about it till I saw a meme about it again. And I was like, yeah, I'm talking about it. Because I think Kirby Joseph got snubbed. He should have been in the top 10 at minimum. And I'm thinking top 5. He should have been right behind Hamilton, ahead of the Honey Badger. Did the Saints make the playoffs? Did did the Dolphins win because of their defense a game in the playoffs? It, I don't get why more people aren't up in arms about that. That's 4, 5, and 6, and Kirby Joseph has the exact same stats basically as number 4. How is he off that list? Right, I understand. I do agree with that. Oh yeah, I agree that 10 teams will offer him if he becomes a free agent, and he wouldn't agree to the restructure. They wanted to save money, and he didn't want to do that. So I don't think they want to pay him 60 million next year because if he wins a playoff game, that money goes through the roof. I think Dak's the one that's gone no matter what. All they got to do is pick up Micah Parsons' 5th year option, and he's got nothing to say about it. and then they can extend them at any time throughout this season or next season and make it a non-issue. And I think that would be the smart thing to do. CD Lamb, on the other hand, they got to pay him. I think was he a first round pick or was he a second? I can't remember. No, he was the first round. Exactly, Matt Henry. That's the thing. I wouldn't want to pay him either. Braylon Dennis, Cowboys can just pull another mediocre QB out of their butts. They always seem to. Dak will walk. Yeah, I agree there, Ricky. Braylon says, think about the Bengals. Jamar Chase is going to want to get paid. They won't have the money for Higgins, especially exactly. That's my point. If they give Higgins the money, they lose Jamar Chase. Who are you keeping between the two of you? It isn't a decision for me. I think it's Jamar Chase. 100% they have to keep. And I agree. I wouldn't want to pay Dak 60, but somebody's gonna pay him 60. You watch. Or it's gonna be like 57.5 with guarantees on the average year. Yeah, exactly. You're keeping Chase. You're not keeping Higgins. So, and as much as Tony Bromo all day, every day. Heck yeah. I mean, seriously, in that, do you think Devonta Smith is better than Amon-Ra St. Brown? I don't. Bear Down Mike says the Giants will pay Dak, and I see it happening, because they can cut and save 40 million on Danny Dimes next year. Yeah, I think if the Bengals wanted out of the tag, they should have put the transitional tag and let somebody float them the picks for him. But I think he's only worth a 2 and maybe a 5 at best for T Higgins. I don't think he's worth the first. He put up good numbers last year, but you remember they had what, 4 different quarterbacks last year? Jake Browning, and whoever else came in, and they missed the playoffs. Giants definitely will pay Dak. It's going to be the Giants or the Oakland Raiders. It's one of those two. That's who will pay Dak because both of them have the cap space to do it. And I feel sorry for Dak. He goes from a team that's overpaid and a middling team that makes it to the first round of the playoffs and exit to a couple of teams that haven't done better than first round exits. I'm sure Leonard will love if the New York Giants gets Dak. I hear you. I know. Oh yeah, the Jets do have great weapons, and that's another location, but I don't know if they'll have the cap space in 2025. Let's look it up. They have exactly 59 million with no increases next year for the Jets. Let's look at the contract, see what it looks like in 2025. Well, it saves them 20 million, 24 million, 23.5, 23.5 to be exact. So add that to the 59. That means they'd be putting 75% of their available cap space into Dak. Right, I did. It's 23.5 they'll save, but they'd be putting 75% Dak got paid mediocre QBs. I don't think Cleveland has the cap space because of that. Oh, so it's the Giants and Raiders that have the most cap space next year because both of them are sitting in the 80s for cap space next year. And the Giants will have more than that when they cut Danny Dimes. And that's if Danny Dimes fails. If he doesn't, they can just keep him at that 40 million and let him ride out the contract and draft one the following year. Nobody's talking about that. What if Daniel Jones has a good year because he finally has weapons on that roster and the O line looks a little better because everybody's healthy? What would have helped them? But I'm only saying Jets because they don't want to deal with another Zach Wilson. They will always have to deal with the Zach Wilson situation. You know why? Because everybody's always looking for the next big thing to come out of college. Jones should go to the UFL, then so should Trevor Lawrence. If you say Daniel Jones is that bad and he should go to the UFL, so should Trevor Lawrence, because Trevor Lawrence has had a better team every year other than his rookie year than what Daniel Jones has had and had the exact same results with lower QB stats. So I don't get that hate for Daniel Jones. I don't get it because everybody wants to make Trevor Lawrence a top 10 QB, but says Daniel Jones is a bust. They both went to the playoffs with the exact same record of 9-8. And the only reason why Jacksonville went is because the rest of the division was that crappy. I will die on that hill. Both of them had horrible. I hate just to build his confidence back. I actually seen some plays that he's been making, and his confidence is back. I think he hasn't been truly healthy last year. Dimes had no offensive lines and awful weapons, yes, and put up better numbers statistically than Trevor Lawrence. He has a better passer rating, a better QBR, 1% or completion percentage, two more touchdowns, one less interception in their careers. Yet one is considered the best thing since sliced bread, and the other was considered dog shit. I don't get it. And that's when I hear the Jaguars are in position to have another great season led by Trevor Lawrence, and I laugh at it. Yeah, he's had better weapons every year of his career, even in that dog shit coached year, his rookie year, which Daniel Jones had Joe Judge running that team. You tell me that was a good coach team? He got fired that year, remember? Brian Dable comes in. At least Jacksonville tried to give Trevor weapons, and this year the GM finally did it. They got rid of that idiot that gave Daniel Jones Kenny Galladay, Kadarius Toney. I mean, Jacksonville's had a better O line, better weapons, and a better running game because Saquon Barkley only had one great year while Daniel Jones was leading that team. And that was the year they went to the playoffs. Last year, the O line got banged up, so much pressure. He got hurt. So say what you want. If he didn't get hurt, he'd had a better year than Trevor Lawrence because he got hurt early in the season. Trevor Lawrence didn't get hurt till towards the end of the season. So I don't want to hear, oh, blah, 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 blah about Trevor Lawrence. And Giants drafted Kadarius Toney in the first round ahead of who? I'm on Ross St. Brown. Just saying. Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle are the only two in that draft that I think you could actually say are better than Amon-Ra St. Brown right now. I put Devonta Smith as a different player, but on the same par. I don't say he's better, but I don't say he's worse. He's just a different style of player. But Jamar Chase, I was tooting his horn prior to the draft. I was like, man, he is the guy, even though he sat out a year in college. I don't think sitting out a year in college hurts you as much as sitting out a year in the pros. Imagine this as your wide receiver room, and the one only played 2 games that year. You got Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, Kadarius Toney, and Kenny Galladay, who played 2 games. That's your wide receiver room. Darius Slayton is finally getting his hands around. Right. Lawrence gets a pass only because he was the first pick but that's not true. They were a cellar dweller the next year, remember? Because that's how they took Trayvon Walker over Aiden Hutchinson. They had the number one pick 2 out of 3 years there, if I remember right. No, it's 2 years in a row because they drafted Lawrence and they drafted Trayvon Walker. And they were a top 5 pick around that time too. And then they've been middling ever since. I wouldn't pay Lawrence if it was me. I'd let him walk. I think he needs a change of scenery. Getting warm in here. I can't give Lawrence a pass because he was the number one pick, which means you're supposed they pinned those years to Urban and not Trevor. It was only 1 year that was Urban's. 1 year. You remember they won enough. They weren't the number one pick that next year. 2020, they was it 2020 they drafted Lawrence or 20 get it right because I wanted. Okay, 21 draft. So back to back years, they had the first pick overall. Then they were in the middle because they got 9-8 and one playoff game due to who? Oh yeah, Riley Patterson, which the Lions signed that off season. I'm just saying he's mid. Lawrence has a great ceiling if can believe in his ability. Sometimes he loses confidence in the game and tries to outthink it. And that's the thing. Good to see you, Lions Rumble. It is great. I am doing wonderful. So looking forward to that thing I told you about on Wednesday. Got to keep the mums of the world. Tina Passarelli, good morning, Jared, and all the Detroit Lions fans. Trevor played for Dabo, enough said. Right. Not Brian Dabo. Yeah, Dabo Sweeney, I know. Yep, Dabo Sweeney. Yes, sir. Can't wait till Wednesday. It'll be a special 2-hour episode of Lions Talk with Smoke and Jeremy B. It will start at 11 a.m. as Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Mountain, 8 a.m. Pacific. For all those out there, John Robinson, sir, how are you? It's been a while there. Good afternoon to you, sir. Happy to hear from you. Like it when my longtime fans come in. Lions Rumble, John Robinson. It's great. I was I was going over Kirby Joseph's stats because PFF just did their top 32. They left him out. And Kirby Joseph had 84 tackles, 4 interceptions, and 11 passes defended. That was better than the Honey Badger, who had 74, 2 interceptions, and 9 passes defended, who's number 5. Number 6 was Javon Holland of the Miami Dolphins, who had 79 tackles, 9 interceptions, and 5 passes defended. So Kyle Hamilton, who was 4, had 82 tackles, 4 interceptions, 13 passes defended. And Kirby Joseph's stat is 84, 4 interceptions, and 11 passes defended. How the hell is Kirby Joseph left off the top 32 safeties list? That's your 4, 5, and 6 back to back. How the hell is he left off that list? It doesn't make sense. All I can say is everybody will be pleasantly surprised if they tune in Wednesday for the special 2-hour episode. But that just goes to show you how flawed PFF is, because PFF actually has 4 of the rookie wide receivers ahead of T. Higgins in rankings this year. When T. Higgins was getting it done with garbage QBs for 12 games. T. Higgins stats last year. Let's look it up. "42 receptions, 15.6 average, 656 yards, 5 touchdowns. The 2 years that Burrow was healthy, he had over 1,000 yards, over 5 touchdowns, but less yards per catch. I think that's kind of huge there. In 2020, Burrow went down in week 5. He had 67 catches, 908, 13-6. Last year, Burrow gets hurt week 5. T-Law is a bum. Thank you, Dan Leonard. But that's what I was basically saying. You can't consider Daniel Jones a bust and T-Law a top 10 quarterback. I mean, nobody's doubting that Justin Simmons, Xavier McKinney, and the top 3 were all better than our guy. But to say that Tyler Matthew and Javon Holland were better, same guy except one has weapons. Absolutely. I've been defending your guy all day. And I said, now that he has weapons and it looks like he's getting his confidence back he had his rookie year when he was taking deep shots because he's got guys that'll catch the ball. What if he has a good year? They can at least let him ride out his contract then, correct? And not have to worry about drafting a quarterback right away. I mean, there is a possibility that happens. And somebody said, oh, they'll probably cut him and sign Dak Prescott if he has a bad year. What do you think about that, Leonard? Somebody in the chat said that. I'm just repeating it. I thought you'd say that. John Robinson, he says, "Do you think the linebackers will stop the quick passes in the middle from the pressure from the line?" Yeah, the short answer is yes. I think having DJ Reader to clog up and take on double teams to free up Aleem as a pass rusher. Um, what I've been hearing about Matthew Betts out at camp is that he has the elite bend and great change of direction skills. When I say elite, they're saying it's better than James Houston's bigger guy, so he's more suited to play the defensive end slash Sam linebacker position. And I did say in 2 years ago he had a solid year because they just like Lawrence, who had better weapons that year, their statistics were pretty much on par with each other in the same win percentage. And they both won a game in the playoffs. I mean, granted, you were against the frauds that were known as the Minnesota Vikings that year, but needless to say, it was a done deal. You guys made it there. You made it to the playoffs. Same record as Detroit. And if it here's the crazy thing. Think about that. If if you didn't if the Seahawks didn't win that game, you guys don't get in. Everybody forgets about that because we beat you. Seattle would have been behind us because we still would have beat Green Bay, which would have got Seattle in. Yes, they do. And Braylon, I'm sorry, I don't see James having a lot of production. I don't know. He's going to be a situational pass rusher. He'll be used on. He's not going to get a lot of snaps. I think the majority of the snaps are going to go between guys like Betts, Davenport, Pascal, Levi, and Wingo. And yes, Levi was probably the second most improved vet this year, according to what I read in OTAs. JMO was the best one overall for who came in and improved and looking like he actually worked at being a wide receiver. He looks way more mature. He sounds more mature in his interviews, and that's huge. He's making toe drag swag catches at the sidelines now and in the back corners of the end zone. I mean, he's actually looking good, and he's getting deep passes from both Goff and Hooker. I mean, somebody said, "Oh, look, that wasn't Goff that threw it. It had to be Suckfelt or Hooker." And I was like, "No, that was number 16 on the jersey." I mean, you only saw it for a second. You had to freeze frame it at exactly the right spot, but it was 16. And it was a nice little outside route. A deep out is what it was. He went straight out for 20 yards and cut to the side and caught it right there at the edge in front of the guy we traded for that might be our CB1, right in front of Carlton Davis. Now, am I saying Carlton Davis is having a bad camp? No. Am I saying anybody's having a bad camp? I don't think Houston's even been on the field yet. Yes, Matt Henry, JMO sounding much more mature and admitting he must do better. Yes, he admitted it. And he started out last year awful. But remember, he just served. I mean, it wasn't a rocket. I didn't say he can't throw deep. You misunderstand what I'm saying. His deep nowhere near as good as everybody thinks it is. Overall, Goff has thrown over 18 interceptions so far. And Hooker had 2 bad days where he threw 3 picks a day and people tore him apart, but nobody's talking about the 5 interceptions per day for Mr. Jared Goff. So, I don't wanna hear it. Everybody's quick to poo-poo Hendon Hooker for 2 bad days in 12 days of camp, but doesn't talk about the elephant in the room that the defense is making Jared Goff look dumb out there. There's a big difference in what I've seen on film of the little clips. of when Goff throws a deep ball and when Hooker throws a deep ball. That's all I got to say. There's a huge difference. And I get sick of people not calling out people when they have a bad day. If you're going to call out one person, you call out the other. I mean, heck, first day of camp, we heard about Jack Campbell picking Goff off twice on his first 2 plays from scrimmage in the 7-on-7s. And then you hear that Terrion Arnold intercepted a pass intended for Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Brendan Joseph intercepted a pass on the way for DPJ. And then Kirby Joseph, he isn't playing yet, but Branch can't play in. Who's the other one that caught one? It's another safety. Iffy. Iffy got one that was headed for Khalif Raymond downfield. So say what you want. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, I understand it, Matt Henry, and that's my point. You can't dog one guy without praising the other. If you're going to dog the quarterback, you better be praising our defense for doing way better than they've ever done. Our defense has stepped up. They're shutting down a top 10 QB. I'm not going to put him in the top 5. What are those emojis there, Dan Leonard? They're so tiny I can't see them. Oh, I got to go look at the chat. Hamburgers, nice. With little flags on them, right? Yummy. Ramen noodles. Oh, okay, gotcha. Even with my glasses, I couldn't read them good. Gus Depot is sponsored by Top Ramen. Oh, that's funny. Well, guys, I do got to get off here. Let's quickly talk about our sponsors. Everybody's favorite sponsor is what? FTP. Well, Matt Henry, you got to remember that's what the press does. They got to trash anything. The press loves negative press. That's all I got to say. They like to trash anything they can outside of the people they're told not to trash. That's what they do. Gloss Negron, the best window tinner in Saginaw, 989-443-9240, 409 Hamilton Street. Call him to schedule your appointment for your window tinting or your auto detailing today. And last but not least, it is Brandon Service. Located right at the corner of South Grand Drivers and West Atherton Road. Here again, 602 West Atherton Road. Stop in for new used tires at $40 and up. If you need new tires, please call 810-233-8230. And since I ran just a few minutes over, I don't even have time to run the outro. But what I do have time to do is say, try every day to be a better person than you were the day before. That's the only way to make the world a better place. It starts right here. Much love, everybody.